Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to episode 69 of the FReality Podcast. This is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show that is live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. You can tune into the show live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. You can also check out the audio version, which is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and on Anchor. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback during the show, please put them in the chat. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. I hope all of you had a very Merry Christmas, and I wish you all a Happy New Year. Welcome to all the VR newcomers that picked up a headset over Christmas. I'm sure there's a couple of you out there. If you're out there, let us know who you are in the chat, and we'll say hello to you. But first, let me introduce you to the team. First up, he may be a little older, maybe a little wiser, but no less rowdy. It is, of course, the rowdy guy. How are you doing, man? Happy birthday for this week.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually funny that you guys actually remembered, but like part of my family like forgot. But I mean, like the people, maybe some people in the chat know, but my birthday is on Christmas Day itself, so it is a day that a lot of people like tend to forget. I once had it actually happen to me that my family came over, like a part of my family came over, thinking that my parents threw like a Christmas party, but it was actually a birthday party. So they were wishing everyone a happy, like a Merry Christmas, and they forgot about me.
Oh, dude, that sounds so sad. Like, do you like guarantee, like you like stipulate, you know, I need double presents, you know, it's not just Christmas, it's my birthday as well?
No. I never got double presents. It was always, you get one very big present. And as a kid, you're like, I don't really care about the big present. I want two of them. You know,
yeah, of course.
They both have to be big, like.
Yeah.
But no, I never really. As a kid, it was annoying, mostly because you're always younger than the rest. Like being a December baby is a little bit of an annoying thing. But for the rest, it didn't really matter that much, except for the month. But I think that mostly applies for most December babies, just because you don't get anything for like the rest of the year, and then like in December, it's like, you know, Santa Claus, you have Christmas, you have your birthday, you have there was another holiday as well here in Belgium, I forgot, but you have another one in there as well, so it's all in 1 month, and then the rest of the year you're just like sitting there like waiting for presents. It never happens.
Although on the flip side, you were a little gift to your mum, so you know that's kind of nice.
Not really actually. No.
She doesn't see it that way. Well, happy birthday to you, dude. I hope you had a good week. Happy birthday to Rowdy in the chat, please. Chuck it in there. Say happy birthday to him. I'm sure he'll really appreciate it. So let's move on then. Next up, resurrected from the dead this week, this powerful mage loves nothing more than to spend his mana and money on Magic the Gathering. It is, of course, Zimtok5. How you doing, man? You all right?
That's raising one from the crypt. Just like me, and you're right. Oh my god, I have had a hell of a week. I think I've said that the last 2 weeks, but this week was like vomiting bug. This was my first occurrence of a vomiting bug over Christmas. So I had kind of a bad work week just before the last podcast we did. That was kind of a big event, number one. And then the second one was picked up a vomiting bug for my son, and so I was on all fours for almost 3 days. It was pretty awful. But that aside, I feel great now, and I have. Yeah. It's kind of like going through a detox when you don't know that you're about to go through it. Like, you know, all you've got is liquid running through your system, and then you're like, you know what? Now I feel really good. But during is not so good.
So whereas I feel like festively plump, you're like, yeah, you know, I didn't gain any weight over Christmas. In fact, I actually lost weight.
I measured. I lost, how much did I lose? Something like 9 pounds or something. It was quite a bit. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, no, I gained weight. I definitely gained weight.
Yeah, me too. But I definitely wouldn't recommend the way that happened. For sure.
But like the weirdest part about it is that, you know, for those who don't know, like the winter vomiting bug is like super contagious. The point where if you breathe on somebody, they can get it. So I literally had to like hole up in my room and like quarantine myself for a couple of days, sleeping here away from my family. It was just like it's just weird feeling like a hospital patient in your own house. And the worst part is like when you're feeling that sick, like usually if I'm feeling kind of just under the weather, I'll be using my Oculus Go all the time, but this time I couldn't, because I just was like, well, first off, I'm not going to infect the headset, and secondly, you just don't feel up to it, you know.
No,
I was already wondering. I was already wondering why there's like a plastic tunnel outside of his house, you know, where people had to enter. It was like, what's going on?
It's like plastic sheets all over the house, like put the entire house in quarantine.
Yeah.
That's just how we
Zim
normally decorate, you know.
Yeah.
Ah.
Zim basically was the outbreak monkey. You know, he had to be contained in his house.
Patient zero.
Yeah.
Patient zero.
Okay. So next up, he's unplugged from the Matrix this week, taking a well-deserved rest. My Frisian friend, of course, it's Nathie. How are you doing?
I'm doing very, very good. Chill.
Good.
Nice, yeah. And I'm kind of happy that I'm like born in November now. I don't know. Because I actually got, you know, presents on my birthday, but sometimes also got a tiny little present at Christmas.
Well, I mean, there is one big advantage of my birthday is I'm always off on that day. I never have to work. I never have to go to school. Always off.
You never have to spend an annual leave day, you know, on your birthday or whatever.
I have another funny anecdote, by the way, about it. I used to think as a kid that the entire world would celebrate actually my birthday. I actually believe everyone was like celebrating that it was my birthday, because even in like because you know we used to go to church on Christmas, and the priest himself would also like call up all the December, like all the kids that were born on the 25th of December, but in the entire town was only me. So it was only me that had to go in the front, and I had to stand there and like, yes, I am Jesus. No.
This is where the problem started. This is where the ego started growing.
Yeah, that's where like my neck started expanding, and I got a bit rowdy.
It explains a lot. It explains
It
a
really
lot.
does. It really does.
Okay, so we've got a jam-packed episode for you this week. Oh, I didn't introduce myself.
Mike.
Actually, I didn't introduce myself. But if you don't know who I am, my name is Mike, and I'm the host of the show from Virtual Reality Oasis.
Really? Are you?
Yes.
I think he's.
When are you born?
Yeah.
That's a
In
good.
June.
What's your month? You're a June.
June, yeah.
Oh, so I'm more like
Cancerian.
I'm like Nathie. I just barely dodged the bullet. I'm a January. So like he and I, like we just dodged that bullet. You know.
Yeah.
He
So I
could've
get I get to break it up, you know, every 6 months to get presents. So it's kind
I
of
mean,
nice.
the only thing you have to do is just plan your birth. That's all.
Yeah.
It's very easy.
It's not hard.
Come on, Rowdy.
Sort it out.
Damn you, parents.
So the main topics of conversation this week, we're going to be giving you the lowdown on the best-selling VR games on Steam this year. We're also going to be talking about FeelReal, a new device that adds smells to virtual reality. What could possibly go wrong? We're going to be talking about the Varjo bionic display headset. It's coming next year and has 40 times the clarity of a Vive Pro. Mind blown.
Wow.
And then we're going to be talking about the best of 2018. We invite you to join us by rounding up the best VR had to offer this year. So make sure you stay tuned and join us in the chat, because we'd love to know your opinion on this as well, not just ours. But let's find out what everyone's been up to this week and their highlight of the week. I wonder what everyone's been playing. And of course, let's kick it over to Rowdy first to find out.
Yeah, I watched last week's episode, and I saw that Nathie pulled a little bit of a diss on me. You know,
Ooh. Yeah,
I had to set the record straight. Who the real prison boss is here, huh? So this week I dove back in and
No way. You used me as an excuse to play that game.
yeah,
Wow.
I certainly did. Yeah, this week is I played like a lot of prison balls. Like I tried to like get like I still haven't gotten to the golden prison. Still haven't figured out what that is. But I did play quite a bit of it, and I've played like a multiplayer online battle arena game, one of the first ones for VR. And it's actually weird because I would expect this genre to be like already featured like way more, because I remember like one of the first things that they showed in virtual reality was like, oh, like the Minecraft kind of scene, and you could like pick up characters and put them everywhere. So I thought like, oh, this is going to be great for like games like League of Legends, Dota 2, Smite. But actually, I can't really remember any of those kind of games that I've played so far. So it's interesting to see that there's only one that I know of now that is on PlayStation VR. But it is a genre that actually I think would work pretty well in virtual reality, like a genre like that. of course, I think the issue a little bit is there because you probably need a lot of buttons to like activate the heroes and to like have the different powers, and that could be a little bit of a problem in virtual reality because our controllers are fairly limited in terms of buttons. But there must be a way around that, like maybe using gestures or like something cool. But I would like to see that genre be, developed more in virtual reality.
I'd love to see some like pro Dota or League players playing a virtual reality version of those games, because when you watch their fingers move so fast across the keyboards when they're doing all these macro keys and stuff like that, I'd love to see them having to physically have to do it with their own body movements. There would be something out of the Matrix, they'd be moving so fast you wouldn't even see their arms moving anymore.
And especially with those kind of games, because with Dota 2, you can watch it in virtual reality. Like you can have like the overview kind of image, but you can't actually play a game like that in virtual reality yet. So, developers get to work.
From a MOBA perspective, I actually, a little bit of the research that I did, I think the game you're talking about for PSVR is called Dark Eclipse. You're talking about the MOBA that's on PSVR. It didn't do so well. But, this is an area where I think if they took AI and kind of this cognitive intelligence to determine whether or not you were grabbing a piece or not. Because right now there's that feeling, you get it in FPSs quite a bit. And I think in MOBAs, that's exactly what you were talking about in terms of not just the button configuration, but also grabbing pieces and moving them fast. Because that kind of tactile feel and the accuracy is really where those games would be getting let down right now in VR.
Yeah,
so
true.
This game is free, am I right? Or is it paid? It is free.
Well, I mean, free in the way that you would still need a PlayStation Plus account to play online, of course. You could play offline against AI, but I mean,
Also,
these kind of games you actually play online, right?
And the heroes you have, you can or grind for them, but it takes a while, or you have to buy them with real money.
Right.
So you only get a few heroes for free, but of course the best ones are behind a paywall.
That's the usual.
Right. Okay.
Did you guys have any like favorite MOBAs of your time? Mine would have been Smite.
Never played one, really, to be honest. I've never got into one.
I've played some Smite, really liked it, but the one I've played the most is Dota 2. I've been like a lot with this macro key stuff as well. Like I love doing that.
That game was so tough though. Awesome. Oh, so tough.
So would you recommend this one then, Rowdy, if you're a MOBA fan and you have VR, or you're not quite sure?
If you're a MOBA fan, it's the only option that you have. So you can't really do anything else. But there are certain things that can definitely be improved in that game, especially in terms of controls, because it's hard to do that in virtual reality, because especially with a MOBA game, you rely so much on your mouse movements and so much on those very small detailed movements, and if you mess up one time, it could cost you like the entire game. So in terms of controls, I would really like to see like some improvements there still. The heroes were cool though. I like them.
Yeah. I remember seeing a bit of your video where you took quite a shine to one of the characters. Am I right?
No comment.
Okay, let's move on. Next up, let's find out what Zim's been playing this week.
Oh God, which one do I pick? I'll pick the game I played a bit today, because I spent all week trying to get to play it, which is Blade and Sorcery. It was on Rowdy's recommendation that I decided to pick up Blade and Sorcery, and it is a bloody stab fest. The thing that I liked the most about the game was the axe mechanic, which Rowdy touched on, which is, when you seat an axe into a table or a face, you have to pull it out, and sometimes with two hands you have to pull it out. So that and the fact that if you swing a claymore, for instance, it will lag because of the weight and the kind of momentum that you're trying to give it as you're swinging it, and it makes the battles quite tough. The thing that the game like really impressed me in a lot of ways, but also needs some refinements. The thing that pissed me off the most was that the AI pretty much insta-blocks anything until you've parried. They've missed a swing, and then you're allowed to hit them or whatever, because otherwise they're just like, nope, you can't hit me, and that really gets annoying. Although I did find that if you get anyone walking downwards on a staircase, you can knife them in the knees 3 times and they'll go down like a sack of potatoes. But that game is, and then back to back I played Gorn to kind of compare, And I'd say if you had to pick between the two at the moment, God, Gorn is so polished now. The way that, like when you kill a combatant, just everything from the shaders that they have on like the mace, the way the blood is animated, the way the character skeleton models are working, and the way that, you know, the people overlooking you in this gladiator arena are throwing coins at you, as in, you know, hey, you've been victorious. Like, it's a very polished title now. So like if you're really looking for something quite gory and naughty, then I'd say Gorn's your pick for the moment. But this one, maybe give it a year, you know, soaking. And I'd love to see it turn into more than just an arena or a gladiator style kind of Gorn-esque game. I'd like to see it go wider than that, because the mechanics and the physics and all that are really cool. And actually, the first thing I felt when I was in this wooden cabin was I'd love to still open the front door and see what's outside. Like, I'd love to see those mechanics come into something like a Skyrim. So, Bethesda, if you're listening, please bring that mechanic.
Welcome back to the Serial Killers podcast.
It's so true. Yeah. But I mean, it was really good.
There's another title like this as well. There's another title like this, but I forgot the name of it, which is more like a battle simulator where you have like I know that Josh Dobb played a lot of it. Is the one where he also wears like the green suit. Where you can ride horses, you can use spears, you can use swords, you can manage an entire army and like play it out against a different army. But I forgot the name of it. Maybe people in the chat can help us out, or if someone knows it, you know, be my guest. But that's also a very Braveheart style. That's where it reminded me of.
So yeah, it was good. So, I mean, the other thing I'll just mention very quickly, and just give a thumbs up to Contractors, because it's a solid FPS.
Tales of Glory, Brian Foster in the chat.
Yeah, I'm going to be actually talking about Contractors in a sec, so you can dip into that as well, Zim.
Good.
So go on then, Nathan. What have you been playing this week, dude?
I have not been playing anything at all. I made a trailer, as you might know, of like the best games of this year, and I will, you know, expose myself with this list I have of all the games later in the podcast. But I did actually play one thing, and I don't know why, and that was Marvel Powers United.
Oh my
but
god!
I didn't really do much with it, because I was checking out the update, you know, because they revamped the game, right? It's still bad, but they made it very hard to finish now for some reason. Like, it's really hard to beat. The game is like almost like, you know. But I already finished the entire game, so I don't really care.
We've already beaten Thanos. We don't need to do it again.
Yeah. So for the people that do play this game or played it once, so what they basically changed is when you were playing this hero arena brawler thing, there were like villains getting spawned in, right? Like every wave there was something else happening, and after a few waves there is one villain spawning in. But now they have a hard mode that spawns in 2 villains instead of 1. Okay. But it's so hard that if you play with AI, you cannot even beat the game anymore. So they really force you to play multiplayer. But the funny part is I've been searching for people, but almost no one is playing it anymore, obviously. And I was just like, okay, so the server is already kind of dead. You update the game, but it's too late. And you see that with a lot of games. You know, update it the moment you bring it out, but don't do it later, because it doesn't really, you know.
It was a strange choice, because they went with full locomotion, which I think is a good choice, but they targeted the game at the newcomers market. Exactly. So an advanced locomotion system with a newcomers kind of style of gameplay that's very repetitive and wave shootery like, which didn't make much sense. So newcomers are going to get motion sick and probably not going to stay for too long, and doesn't have the holding power to keep us interested as veterans. So it kind of didn't hit the mark on both aspects.
Well said, old chap. Well said.
Yeah. I would say it's still like, I think it's still like a good arcade title. If they could just bring out a license for this game, great, you know. But for just PC players, nah.
Yeah, give the license to somebody else. Give it to a different studio. Let them have a hand at it, you know.
Yeah, they could try.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, this week, like I hinted at earlier, I played Contractors. But before I jump into Contractors, we also checked out Somium Space, Nathan and I, and we also jumped into Alt Space as well, because we met up with Vivian from The Hive. If you're not familiar with The Hive, it's a regular talk show actually hosted in VR in Alt Space.
She's in the chat.
She is.
Oh, hey Vivian.
Yep.
Good to see you in
Hello.
VR, and obviously we've met outside of VR now as well at OC5. But she hosted an event where she asked me and Nacy some questions. We tried it in Somium Space, but we had some technical issues, so we ended up moving over to Alt Space to have it there. But there was around 600 people apparently watching it live in obviously multiple spawns of the room that we were in. But it was really cool interacting with people there. They could ask us questions,
Yes.
and we got to talk a little bit. And it's kind of nice being on the other side of the questions for a change. It was kind of a bit of a strange dynamic, but it was really enjoyable. So that was a lot of fun. So shout out to Vivian and the Hive. If you're ever in Alt Space and there's an event going on, definitely go and check it out.
Out of curiosity, how does that many-to-one room system work for you? Do you only get to see one instance and specific participants in that room, and then everyone else you just can't see?
Exactly. Although when they do emojis or like hearts and likes, you can see them all. So the room really fills up when they all start doing it, which is kind of cool.
Who got the most? Who got the most emojis? You or Nathan?
I have no idea,
I don't
but
know.
I think I would have been more nervous had I known that there was like 600 people watching, whereas it just felt like a room of 10 people. So I was like, yeah, this is chill. I digress. But yeah, contractors. I'm not a massive competitive player in VR. You probably know this from previous episodes of the show, and it's due to the fact that I just simply don't have time to invest in a single game to get good at it enough because I suck at these games. So I go into them, I get schooled straight away, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done with this.
Whoa. Hang on. I dropped you into Firewall, and you did very well. So I know it was early days for Firewall.
Yeah, but when did you do that? Huh?
It was in the early days of Firewall.
It was early days.
So,
First couple of weeks.
I could pretend I was a pro for a couple of days.
We both have like Onward t-shirts though, so we look like we're pro Onward people.
Yeah, exactly. We were trying to convince people at OC5 we were pro Onward players. If only they knew.
Worked.
Yeah. But yeah, I got to check out Contractors, and I have to say I was really impressed with this game. Like I said, I don't play these games very often, but this one really stood out for me because graphically, it's probably one of the best ones out there, I think.
Yeah.
Not only are the environments very detailed and rich with stuff going on, but the character models look good, and more importantly, the guns look amazing as well. I think the guns look spot on. Also, the weapon handling mechanics are great. You've got multiple grips on your gun, so you can hold it in a variety of different ways to suit your playstyle. The reloading feels solid. You've got all the standard sort of points on your vest, a bit like Pavlov and Onward does. The menu systems, the UI was super easy to navigate, which I've always had problems with in Onward. I always felt like it was a bit clunky to navigate around. And most importantly, it really seems like there's a thriving community around this game right now. So, like Zim has mentioned before on the show about these kind of like multiplayer games, is kind of jump in while they're hot. I don't know how long this is going to last around Contractors, but it seems right now it's the hottest VR multiplayer shooter game to play right now. So if you're interested in a competitive VR shooter, I would say definitely go and check this one out. I don't think you'll be disappointed in terms of the way it looks and performs.
And on what scale would you put it? Like, would you put it more like the Onward side, more on like the Pavlov side? Is it more like arcade shooter? Is it more like tactical?
It's a bit of both, actually. It's kind of weird. It's kind of a hybrid mix of the two. You can play it very tactically, or you can kind of play it arcadey and have a lot of fun with it. Plus, it has an offline mode with just bots, which actually works very well if you don't want to play with other people.
I'm just imagining Mike's team, like, this fucking guy Mike just keeps tossing grenades and making duck noises. What's this guy doing? What's this guy doing? He thinks it's Pavlov. No, I mean, for me, I'd say it's probably more towards Onward, but the settings are a bit more urban, so it feels a lot more like Pavlov in that respect. The fact that it's like, the thing I found really weird and took me a couple of game sessions to get my head around is this whole get to a data point, hack enough so you control it until you can basically upload to a satellite, and then you get enough data flowing until you get like a megabyte of data, and then that's it, your team wins. So it's a really strange thing because it keeps going. So like you'll get, I don't know if it's 25% of the upload or whatever, you try to kind of control that point, and then it switches and it goes somewhere else, and then it switches again. And so it's this whole kind of concept of move your team, move your setup, be smart, but still get to the point fast. So there's a little bit of a kind of like a VR Counter-Strike aspect to it. But like what Mike's saying, the two things I want to underscore are gun models are such a nice balance of the texture and modeling. Like, I wouldn't say they're the best modeled gun I've ever seen, but I'd say that they're certainly on the high end, and the performance is really spot on. But the lighting was like, the second I was in it, some of the scenes are just so well lit, and the lighting becomes the most important mechanic the game offers, because shadows, like this lovely shadow that I'm making here, I can make a duck. You know, the shadows can give away where your opponent is or where you are. You have to really be careful. Like, where's the sun position? If I go around this corner, am I going to cast this big feckin' long shadow so the enemy knows exactly where I am? And it gives you away. So, I mean, that for me was
That's cool. This is the first time that I hear actually of a game really utilizing that.
Yeah.
I do feel like the shooters are getting better slowly.
Oh,
like
for sure.
You know, Onward is still, you know, hanging in there. Pavlov is like, yeah, super arcadey. I mean, Wardas was like super ambitious. I still don't know what's gonna like happen to that one. And also like Zero Caliber. So they all have something that you would like to add to one game. You would want to slap it together.
And Echo Combat, of course, as well. You know, super polished as well. But it'll be really interesting to see if the competitive scene embraces this game as, you know, maybe the new, you know, multiplayer shooter to play, because I saw that if you want to see someone good at playing this game, by the way, and you should, is check out Lonely Viper's streams when he plays this game. That guy is insanely good at shooters, as we know from his previous experience with Onward. But he was going toe to toe with Shroud just recently on a Twitch stream, and I don't know if you know who Shroud is, but he's a pro player. Yeah, like he's a previous member of Cloud9, serious CS:GO player, and now obviously a Call of Duty player as well. So it was really interesting dynamic seeing those two go head to head in a competitive game. So definitely go and check that one out on the VODs on Twitch. But yeah, check it out. It's like £15 in British, 15 British pounds, $20 US. So worth checking out if you're in that.
Talking about Pavlov, I saw PewDiePie streaming Pavlov today.
Wow.
Oh, really?
He's been really hitting VR a lot just recently.
He was streaming. He just felt like it, I guess, to play it. So
he does play it a lot though, virtual reality.
But I mean, Pavlov, come on, man, get with the times.
I keep on posting comments in his videos saying that I could help him out, make it look better, because his videos just look awful.
Oh, they do.
the quality, like the output from the game looks terrible. But yeah, I'm so pleased that he's sharing more VR content though. It's great for us and great for the industry as a whole, I think.
Maybe he should hire you. You're gonna be his new editor. His VR expert.
I don't know if I'm that good.
You can live in his closet behind him. There's enough space there, so.
You just need to change your name to Brad, right? And then you can be added to the PewDiePie team.
So the other two things I want to highlight that I got into this week, because we don't have that much quick news, so I thought I'd sort of stretch this bit out a little bit, is that I've been giving some demos to VR newcomers, which has been really nice. I love doing this, and especially over the Christmas period, a lot of people come over and friends and family come over, and they've never tried VR before, and they just have no comprehension of what it's like. And I just love putting people into VR for the first time and seeing their reactions for the first time. It's such a magical experience, not just for them, but also for me to see their reactions as well.
What headset were you using, Mike?
So he's using the Rift, and my sort of go-to demos are the Oculus Dream Deck. Run them through those. Especially, I love seeing the reactions with the one at Heights, where it looks like you're overlooking Gotham City. And the T-Rex encounter, obviously, at the end of the Stream Deck experience. And then obviously First Contact, so they get to learn how to use the motion controllers. I think that's a great way to show people how to use them, and then interact with that adorable Johnny Five little robot.
Oh yeah.
And then depending on what kind of games they like, I either put them into Beat Saber or Super Hot. Generally those two.
Something safe. Oh, Super Hot, it's kind of tricky already. I mean, they go all over the place.
There's no locomotion there, so that's actually I often do that as well. do that as well.
I'm curious, for those of you who demo, do you, I know Roddy will probably play it safe, but do you use the safety loop on the controllers when you're demoing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. And I always use like my proxy mat, and I know that Nathan uses one as well, but I always just say, look, always stand on this mat, and then you won't punch a wall or anything else. So the second they step off it, they know they're in the danger zone.
I still hate those mats, like even for whatever micrometers it is, right? Like when you, micrometers isn't a word, sorry. They're twitching like, you didn't say millimeters. But when you even, your foot goes like just a little bit off, it feels like you're about to fall off a cliff. Like I hate those mats. I'd rather be punching a wall, to be honest.
I usually like show people like, hey, this is like some kind of like hologram wall, and you can just touch my wall now. But there's like some space between, so really learning them like, okay, this is how it works, you know.
Yeah.
But like one of my favorite combos is, and I showed it to one of my friends, is if you go into Toy Box and you join them in VR and show them what it's all about.
Cool.
So you can really, you know, join along and just interact with them and show them all the tricks. It's really cool. Like, I never knew that was a thing. I was like, wow, I can actually also be there with them and show them how things are getting done.
That would be a really interesting dynamic with the Quest as well. And I'm sure, you know, if there's a cross-compatible game with Quest and Rift, that would be way much easier, and I could do something similar myself. But that's a really interesting point.
Another funny Easter egg, because in Oculus Dream Deck, you have that, you know, Gotham City, and there's a billboard behind you, right, with Palmer on there, because Dream Deck is from I think from the launch of the Oculus Rift. But if you use Gotham City in your Oculus Home, because you can use that as an environment, right? You have the Pirate Cove.
Yep.
Then the billboard is also there, but they just got rid of him, and they put something else there.
Oh, really?
So it's Yeah. Go check it. It's like you see like someone wearing the Rift, and it's like an advertisement board. So.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, I kind of feel like if you're part of history, you should stay part of history.
Yeah, of course. Regardless.
I was surprised it was still in Dream Deck, that they didn't really change that.
I hope they never changed that.
Well, one thing I wanted to add here, Mike, before we swap on is I know we talk about VR and AR a lot, and for my sly grin, you're probably telling that I'm about to throw a trick here. But NR, have you ever heard of NR?
NR? No, enlighten me, please.
I've been exploring NR just today, and I think, Mike, you have actually explored NR as well, which is Netflix reality. Because there's this lovely... I don't know, are you covering this later, or...?
I was actually just about to talk about it, but go for it. Right. I'll dip in and out. Yeah.
I won't say much, because I think one of the things is to kind of keep it high level. If you have Netflix, Rowdy... If you have Netflix, he stopped his account or something recently. If you have Netflix, then Black Mirror, which is a thing that Mike's been plugging for months and months and months, and every so often I'll catch an episode. They just launched something called Bandersnatch, which is a lovely choose your own adventure style interactive video. And I won't say much about it. And I don't think this gives much away, but my favorite bit was the Netflix bit, and I'll just say that. But
yes,
but it's pretty damn cool, and it definitely messes with your head. And if you have any opportunity to check this out, and you're a fan of indie stroke new realities, you have to watch this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I was going to mention it as well, because it was one of the things I really enjoyed this week. It was like really my highlight of the week. Yeah. And
are you guys seriously going to make me renew my contract now?
You do. You need to renew your subscription. Seriously, it's worth it. But just like Zim said, it's basically an old style choose your own adventure book adapted to a TV show. So you use your Netflix remote, and then at points in the TV show, you get to make a choice. Between two choices, and it really sort of changes the dynamic of the show. And there's so many different possible outcomes. I think there's 5 different endings from what I've heard. But of course, being Black Mirror, like Zim said, super dark. It follows a story around a kid called Stefan, who wants to be a game developer, basically, to give you a very brief summary of what it's about. But definitely go and check it out. Do it straight after this show if you've got a Netflix account. The only one thing I will mention is that, sadly, you can't experience this in the Oculus Go with the interactive features. A lot of people on the Oculus Go subreddit tried it using the Netflix app with the Go, but the features don't work in there. So you need to just do it on your TV right now, which is a bit of a shame.
Does it work on the browser? Because
it works.
I'm not sure.
I think it works. It works on the basis of, I'm going to call it, it's kind of like, you have DVD menus, the kind of interactive system that. It's either that or the app itself. I couldn't tell which one it was leveraging from the technology stack, but it's a very simple interface. They do it seamlessly. Like, it is so well integrated, and the writing in the thing. Yes, it's worth. It's actually worth.
I actually wonder if it will work for you.
An account
because I usually use it with the Chromecast. That's why.
Oh.
I would imagine you'd be fine. I would imagine you'd be fine. As if you use your TV remote to control your Chromecast, then it'll be the same for the Netflix app. No,
Yeah,
you use an app.
It's with mobile. Yeah,
Okay.
it's app.
Maybe look into it then, Rowdy, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing experience. Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
And that is Bandersnatch, which is a Black Mirror episode. But it's about an hour and a half,
Interesting name,
2
by the
hours, 2 hours long. Yeah.
Pretty heavily promoted as well. I've seen it not just in terms of it trending places, but they've actually done obviously a heavy campaign for it as well, given the holiday season, I think, and the type of technology. And they tend to push these things. Maybe it's just here in the UK, but you know.
So
We got Crash Organism in the chat saying that Minecraft has done something similar like this as well, which is true. I believe that was called Minecraft Stories.
yes.
So a bit like the Telltale series. Is that what he's kind of talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just on a TV, which is something new. But definitely I would welcome more of in the future. I enjoyed it so much that I'd love to see this adapted
It's
more.
not short. I thought it was going to be like 30 minutes, but we like an hour and a half in, we were still doing it. And I had friends who said, 3 hours later, it's like I spent 3 hours of my life trying to find like the ending or the meaning behind the story.
Yeah.
That's good.
So Mike, you said that you needed a Netflix remote, or just a remote, because
Normal remote.
I was wondering, is there like a Netflix remote out there?
remote you
Yeah,
use
okay,
for your
okay.
Netflix account.
I was
that's
like,
what I meant.
whoa, special like neon, like Netflix
No.
remote, super special for only this, I was like, whoa, where can I get this?
Because so many people have it on like a smart TV, or they use a Roku box or an Amazon box or whatever.
So if you do want to check it out in VR, you could possibly link your desktop to VR desktop,
That's
and
what I
then
was
you
thinking.
can just use your mouse to click, or maybe your Oculus
Probably,
Go.
Yeah,
Right.
virtual desktop would work. Yeah.
And the benefit of that, I'll just underscore why I think people should actually give that thing that Nathan just mentioned a shot, is that when you're in VR, like it takes care of your self-control of looking at your phone or looking at your cat or whatever you're doing otherwise. You're immersed in it and you pay more attention to the details. So in that effect, then the story loop and how closely you get bound to characters is that bit more rich. So.
Yeah.
And I think that works for many films as well. So that's why I've come to really liking watching the Oculus Go. All the movies when I watch them now alone.
Yeah. And not only should you just check out Bandersnatch, but you should just check out Black Mirror in general if you've not checked it out, for sure.
Such
Yeah,
a
it's
dark.
highly recommend.
So dark though. If you're not
love it.
if you're not a fan of
Not
dark
all of them.
stuff, like that's not for you then.
The best ones are the good ones.
Yeah.
So let's move into some quick news. Well, the only bit of quick news we've got this week, and that is about Verizon. So it's a US mobile phone company, if you're not familiar, Verizon. But they're using VR to train its employees, and not in a way that you would expect, like what we've seen with Walmart, for example. They're using it to train about keeping things clean and hygienic and making sure there isn't trip hazards and health and safety, like lifting practices and stuff like this. Verizon are going like next level with it, and they're going to how to deal with an armed robbery situation in VR training. So this is pretty crazy.
Wait, so payday.
Pretty much. That's what they're training for, but they've got a bespoke application that's been developed for them by a company called Striver, and it is the same company that basically is developing the Walmart application. But of course, with the prices of smartphones skyrocketing, now an average smartphone is around $1,000 US. They obviously see themselves as a bit of an easy target, so they want to train their employees, not necessarily how to retain their products, but just to keep each other safe and their customers safe. So the idea behind this is that there's three 360 videos of armed suspects entering a Verizon store, some of which are snatch and grab, some of which are holding an employee hostage. And the trainee obviously experiences this with a VR headset and has to react and make decisions to try and sort of make sure no one dies, pretty much. Is
it like a interactive 360 in a way, or like an actual?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
essentially that. So they choose their options, and they can obviously react in real time with the voice which they're being monitored on in the training scenarios. And it's just kind of to see how they react to something like this, because we know that VR can be very immersive. So particularly for people that maybe not necessarily exposed to VR regularly would find this super immersive, I think. So I think that's why it's great for a training scenario. But it's great to sort of see how people will react and how you can sort of train them to maybe counter that their natural reactions to deal with a situation like this if they ever come up to it in real life. So it's super interesting, and I thought it was worth mentioning on the show. But what do you guys think about this? Like, you know, do you think you'd be prepared for something like that if you maybe experienced it a few times in VR first? You'd sort of maybe have an idea of what you were going to do.
Ever prepared for something like that?
Yeah.
Like if someone really holds like a gun to your head or something, that's still very different from experiencing that in virtual reality, I think. Even though you do it with the intention of like teaching people, but I don't know. Like you have to maybe do it like maybe like a billion times for you to like feel comfortable in a situation like that, maybe, or to train you, like, you know, I don't know, your animal brain or something, that you know how to act in a situation like that. But
I don't know. I think there are like certain aspects you could like learn from, and it will never be like, you will never get used to stuff like that. But I'm sure there are like things like, okay, so.
Oh yeah, but I think it can be a teaching tool, but not like replace any kind of like educational other experience that you can have. I don't think so.
So do you think physical training, like where they just did role plays, would be more suited then, or a better training tool than a VR experience?
I think so, because you get physical contact. You don't have that yet in virtual reality, and I think that's a big thing in these kind of things. If someone like actually grabs you and holds you down, or that's still very different from like someone shouting at you in through virtual reality glasses.
Yeah,
I think
the intimidation factor, I'd have to agree, is something that a lot of people won't be ready for. You know, like if you're standing in the street corner and somebody grabs your bag and starts running with it, like what do I do now? Do I chase him? Might have a knife, right? Am I gonna end up in a dark alley with some dude who's now, you know, gonna knife me? And was it worth that? So he couldn't take my iPod? You know, so I think that those situations are pretty tough. You know, I unfortunately went through one when I was a teenager. So I went through a school shooting, and I was in one of those situations. And there's a part of your brain that kicks in that's kind of half instinct and like half thinking. And the mixture of what you end up doing out of that is something that I think training can only give you kind of guide rails for. I still welcome it though, because you know, again, being a corporate employee. Sorry, Rowdy, go ahead.
I think it's a nice additional tool, like, but I don't think it will replace anything that is already there in place.
I just wonder, like, I mean, who is going to, like, company-wise, who's investing the hours like you do, like after a tragedy, right? You're going to get counselors in, and, you know, you're going to do the mop-up of, you know, whatever happened. But, like, in advance, to convince a committee or a group to spend the money, you know, at a school, at a business, wherever you're trying to prime people, unless it's like a series of corner shops where, you know, every month these are getting held up, then you're going to pay the money and probably train your employees how to deal with that. But I think the good thing about VR is that you're giving some training, and you can do that easily across a wide group of people and give them some feeling of what that's like without, you know, without actually having to pay for physical people.
Yeah, I think it's a cheaper way of doing it, right? And there's less risk involved of someone actually getting hurt even during the training, which can happen as well. But I'm sure police and military applications will maybe become more common in the future, you know, with this kind of training, when it's combined with physical interaction as well, like maybe shooting suspects and stuff like that, maybe. And how, because, you know, a lot of, in terms of police firearms officers, you know, that kind of flinch reaction, you can't train that out of someone. So if someone naturally flinches and shoots, it's kind of like a fail in their eyes. So to do that in a safe scenario like this would be super interesting.
I think eventually, you know, we will get to that point that we get like training sessions that are almost indistinguishable from the real world. That actually that like makes me think of like that one scene from Mr. Bean, from Johnny English. I don't know if you guys have already seen the movie, but there's a virtual reality.
So I saw it over Christmas.
It's very well done. Where he puts on a virtual reality headset and he thinks he's actually, you know, in a VR environment, but actually it's actually happening around him in real life. It's hilarious.
There's like a scene where he's like infiltrating this evil guy's lair, and he picks up some nunchucks in like the virtual world. In the real world, he's got a couple of like baguettes, and he's like beating someone in a bread shop. It's just hilarious.
Oh, so he's actually responding to a real event, although he thinks he's right, cool.
It's hilarious. It's so well done. Yeah.
It's
but
brilliant.
yeah, I just thought it was worth mentioning. I thought it was definitely an interesting discussion point.
I
So
would
let's
like
know.
to see the same employees actually then after that training see Payday. So, like see them play Payday.
Put them in Payday,
Be
see how they
hilarious.
fare. Yeah.
Imagine having like those people like practicing in Payday, and they're the ones that work in the the bank and the supermarket, and then we as like Steam players are like, hey, let's have some fun today, and they're like, oh, what's gonna happen this time?
They have to play the bystanders. That would be hilarious. Yeah.
I have to say, if we ever manage, I know it's difficult for us to do it, but if we ever manage to get the four of us together for like a day-long gaming session in VR, Payday's got to be on the map, because although I'm not a huge fan of it, this crew in that game could be quite fun.
Yeah. We actually did do it once. Me, Rowdy, and Nathy have played Payday once. We did a Christmas one where we had to save Christmas, and there was a bit where you have to like slap Santa around the face because he's like so drunk. You have to like wake him up.
But you like there's one that I still want to play. You can infiltrate into the White House. And you nowadays you have like actual like hand tracking too, so you can see other people wave at you. And back then it was like an arcadey thing we played, but it's way better now. They improved the VR as well.
Do you have to pay? Remind me, I don't know. Did Payday go free to play, or is it still paid?
No,
still
it's
paid.
still paid. But if you own the game, then you get the VR version for free.
Yeah, in case you didn't know.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the quick news. Before we move into our main topics, let's hand it over to Zim for. I don't think there's a couple of game releases to talk about and some other bits and pieces to talk about, but take it away, Zim. I'll let you run the show.
Orchestrate. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you guys a clip from a game that's launching on PSVR called Megalith. And actually, I found that this is kind of interesting. Dovetails quite well with Rowdy's talking points from earlier when he was talking about Dark Eclipse on PSVR. So this is there's a timed exclusive, Jan 8th launch by Disruptive Games, and this is PSVR only at the moment. But it's a kind of a destructible environment, free locomotion. Somewhat like a battle royale stroke MOBA game where you've got, from what I understand, 2v2 titans on a battlefield. You pick one of 5. They each have their own unique skills and abilities and things like that, and you basically go toe to toe. So it's a kind of an action hero shooter stroke titan combative game that's launching on PSVR. And I really do think that from what I can see there was like a pre-launch that happened, allowed some people to actually play an open beta of the game. And that happened recently as well. So I think there's some kind of interest here. I'll actually run, while I'm talking about another piece here, I'll run a kind of a piece from that open beta. It gives you a better flavor than just the teaser trailer. But it's not as you were saying earlier, Rowdy, it's not something that I've seen done before. This kind of game reminded me when I first saw it of something like Smite, because you've got these it looks like a MOBA but from first person, which is honestly where I think VR could be pretty cool. So anyway, you guys have a look at the trailer while it's running if you can. Let me know your thoughts and be interested, especially after your recent gaming session, because I think Dark Eclipse, from my view of it, having not played it yet, did look a little bit underwhelming. This I think could have potential. It looks kind of interesting.
Yeah, because I saw that Paradise Decay commented on my video as well, and that was the first thought I had as well. It's a shame that I can't go first-person view into the character, and I see that this game you can do that. It's mostly from the first-person view as you play as a Titan, I guess. But it looks better when you have that overview, not from like the third person, but more as like a first person. I kind of like that kind of stuff, and I love the art style of it. It looks really nicely. Yeah. I like it. How it's called? Megalith.
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 So this one will be coming to PC eventually, will it, Zim? Or
because they said timed exclusive, and that's on the devs website. So that tells me that they do have plans to release on PC. So to be honest, because of how it looks, I think it'll be a nice one if you've got Move controllers. That's how I'm expecting you're going to have to deal with it, given the kind of force powers or whatever you have. But also, PC players can wait with bated breath for this thing to launch sometime later. It does look like a new, kind of a dipping into not a new genre, but for VR, a new offering.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So that's the first one. Second one. This one is this is a horrible thing. I shouldn't be promoting this at all, as I really was not a fan of the original offering by these guys. But I'm gonna say it anyway. So this game is Atlas, which is apparently coming for PCVR. The options are already in the menu. I have not heard successful reports of it being played, and even from Pancake players, I know the game was DDoSed all the hell on launch day from all over the world.
Wow.
And people have generally been, at the moment, Steam is showing mostly negative in terms of reviews of this game. So I'm going to lay all that out there in the front. However, that said, if we look at the teaser trailer that's rolling at the moment, the game looks pretty stunning. It is essentially a pirate add-on to the existing game Ark, which you guys might remember was an MMO, and I think Nathan and I both remember and still have scars from the VR mode that they had patched into that, which was awful, dire, but I still had good moments with a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
So
wait, is this a separate VR game, or is this also something?
So it's a VR mode for Atlas that is being built into the game and developed. But what we've seen from the developer kind of wants me to say, point fingers and say, sack of lies. We shouldn't. Do not show me a trailer that looks that good. Do not show me VR options. I don't want to have hope for this.
I still remember Martin Risby playing Ark Survival Evolved in virtual reality, and he couldn't get it to work for the life of it was hilarious to see, because he kept on bashing into trees with his hats and stuff like that to try and get some wood, and he died like maybe 4 times in like the 20 minutes just because he couldn't figure out the controls. He couldn't read the controls because it was so stuffed in his face.
It was awful.
It was so badly
optimized. So what I heard is that Atlas is like a reskin of Ark Survival Evolved. So based on that, the VR support is still the same thing. So that means mouse and keyboard VR.
Exactly.
Honestly, I also had fun moments, but it's not great VR.
No, the chat is fairly obvious as well. We have Paradise Decay saying Atlas is terrible. Keep away. Fuji Ark Ark devs next. Atlas should never been advertised as its own game. Ark, move on. So people.
Should I also mention Ark Park? I mean, that's everything together. Is just I would stay away from this one.
Honestly. Yeah. So as I said, I wanted to bring it up just to ruin everyone's festive cheer before we got into the good games in the year.
Okay.
So anyway, that was Atlas PCVR Pipe Dream. So there you go. Next thing we're going to move on to is the best-selling games of 2018 for VR, which should be very interesting. So we've got a couple of tops here. I'm going to give you each a rundown of the top 10 from the list. I won't go through all of them. I'm sure in the comments there's something we can post a link to Steam's VR games if you don't find it easy to find. And also I'll cover off the top releases. So I'll go through those in just a moment. I'm going to actually use in terms of a kind of a trailer in the background. I might actually sample a little bit of Nathy's multifaceted composition from recently. We'll cover this a little bit later as well, because I know he's going to be going on that stuff. So top 10 sellers on the Steam platform, publicized by Valve. In first position, surprise, surprise, Beat Saber.
Yeah.
Of course.
So
I would have thought that as well.
And just in case we are not familiar, people who are listening are not familiar with the games, I'm going to give you each kind of just go around the table and give you one of these, and you just tell me in your shortest description possible how you would describe that game to your grandmother. Okay? Beat Saber. Rowdy, how would you describe that to your grandmother?
Guitar Hero in VR.
Oh, your grandmother knows Guitar Hero. Oh, that's very good.
Of course she does.
You got an awesome grandma. You got an awesome
Rowdy's nan. Of course she does.
Yeah.
You got an awesome grandma. All right. Now, Nathy, for position 2, Gorn.
I mean, that's easy. It's like being a gladiator. That's it.
That's a nice way to put it. Mike, VR Kanojo. Do you know this game?
What is
yeah.
that?
So this is Sexy Times in VR.
Yeah. So
That one.
this
That's
is
the one that's introduced me to.
actually, I saw it. It's sad because it's like the only in the top 10. It's the only game I haven't played yet. It's 30 quid, and I'm like, I'm not paying that for a girl next door simulator.
Yeah.
Didn't say I won't. I'll get there. Steam sales. Number 4. Give this back to Rowdy. Onward.
Tactical shooter.
Tactical shooter. That works. Orbis VR. I was surprised to find in 5th place, and that's for Navy again. How'd you describe that?
RuneScape VR.
Brilliant.
Become a wizard.
Become a wizard. Exactly.
But my grandma never played RuneScape, but I'm sure it's so old that she might remember it.
Oh man, I'm imagining a whole bunch of grandmas playing.
In the chat though, there are a lot of people asking for the link to the sexy game in VR for their friend.
For their friend.
For their friend. Yeah,
VR Kanojo link confirmed. Pavlov is in position 6. I'll just fire through these last ones here. And so Pavlov, Skyrim, Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades, Arizona Sunshine, and Super Hot. So a lot of mega titles. I think the only real surprise in that set for me, there were 2, Kanojo and Orbis. I was kind of surprised to see Orbis in the top 10, but it really shows people are really keen on getting together and and kind of celebrating VR. And there's still an itch for multiplayer.
I didn't see Kanojo in Nathan's roundup video, so he clearly missed one out.
But I think this the whole point about companionship is like a really important thing. It's the reason that streams are popular. It's the reason YouTube videos are popular. It's like getting to know somebody, reaching out to the internet and kind of being around a fireside.
Honestly, I'm still surprised Kanojo is like on Steam because I thought it was not legal to with
You know
underage girls in VR.
You know what I'm going to do after this podcast? I'm going to go to all of your Steam profiles and check how many hours you guys have in that game.
I did try it for science.
Did you?
Yeah, sure, Nathy. Here, 23 hours. With 23 hours.
Yeah, sure.
We need a report. We need an executive report following this podcast, Rowdy, published on Twitter, okay? You show it on.
But honestly, having Arbus in there, I really wonder how many players they have that play this.
There's a community.
It must be pretty huge.
And they've got a release upcoming, right? So they've got their kind of the graphical overhaul and all that kind of stuff coming. Whether or not it's going to be something to sing about, we don't know yet.
Yeah, but like if I hear you saying this whole list, it's like there's almost no multiplayer in there. Of course, Onward is in there, but like Arbus is that's very good. That's very good.
Onward, Orbis, Pavlov, Arizona Sunshine.
Yeah, but those are all shooters.
They are all shooters.
This is something else. So this is a good sign, I would say.
That is a good sign.
More than I know, there's a lot of people in the top 10 list that love beating their saber.
Yeah. All right, so the last thing I wanted to say here was just the top 5 from top releases. Because top releases, I assume, means on release day, highest sales. And the scariest thing about that is VR Kanojo's number 1.
Wow.
Which was, it's quite a flashy cover. Number 2, thankfully, is Accounting Plus, which we know had a great name for itself before launch. Seeking Dawn had a huge amount of buzz around it. Moss, very similarly, again, had established quite a role in terms of its name. And then Budget Cuts, which was like a long-awaited, there was plenty of VR people honed in and ready to try that. So not too many surprises, but that VR Kanojo came out of left field. I don't know much about it, to be honest.
We got an in the chat, actually. Watuk is saying Kanojo is just a tamed-down version of Play Club or Play Home, and these are Japanese-only games. Yeah. I see Zim nodding.
I know so little about that stuff.
I think the best thing you could do is just go and check out a Let's Play, because I think I think Cass and Cherry played it, so that would be a very interesting dynamic. That you've probably never seen before. So if you want to check it out,
it's a girl next door VR simulator if you're interested. So there you go. That's the top sellers. I just want to say this to Valve. thank you for publishing these lists. They're really interesting information. It's something that probably undermines their like competitive advantage against their competition to release that statistical information. But I think, as we've seen since the early days of Steam, they tend to be quite open book.
Even like mid-year. I mean, mid-year they released this list of like 250 of the best, and then Beat Saber was already like on top with others, so you could already see what was like happening. It's it's nice, and it's also in.
You just texted me and said that we're welcome. He doesn't mind doing that.
Oh, okay, good. So Gabe apparently messages Rowdy on a regular basis.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have anything else to say anymore. Like, Gabe,
he's
I'm like, okay. Yeah, never mind.
Well, thank you very much, Zim, for the releases. Really appreciate it. So let's move into one of our first topics, and that is FeelReal. So we all know that VR is super immersive, and from what I've tried with, a little bit of haptic feedback with like a vest or using a sub pack like what Zim does, a small bit of haptic feedback can make a big difference in a VR experience. But what about smells? Do you think this can add to the experience? Well, this US company called FeelReal certainly thinks so, and they're making a smell accessory add-on for virtual reality headsets.
Does it work with your Kanojo?
Dude, I don't know, man. I don't know if I want that to happen or not. But this kind of reminds me of like the Nozzulous Rift. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, that's from South Park VR, right?
Yeah, it was like a marketing thing for South Park. A few years back. I think Zim actually got to try it. Is that right, Zim?
I did. That's right. And it is a distinct disadvantage to have facial hair when they squirt smelly stuff at you. So basically, you're sitting there in front of Cartman. Cartman lays out a big old toot, and the headset, the Nozzulous Rift, it's not a headset, right? So you're still playing a 2D game. You're still playing a game with a gamepad, and then you've got this thing that straps across your nose that every so often is injecting basically, like you hear it like little bursts of horrible egg shell smells and all, awful. And it'd stick in your beard, and you'd smell it for like 30 minutes later, still feeling nauseous. But I have to say, did it enhance what was that called? The butthole of truth or whatever it is?
The stick of truth.
It did. Yeah. But I mean, I think it needs to be a little bit more subtle and less overstated if they're going to do a serious product. The real question I had was like looking at this Vader mask that they decided to bolt onto various headsets is just from a product design. How is that thing affixing to all these headsets? I'm sure you got some details on the thing, Mike. But
yeah, I have for sure. To answer that question, basically they use like a mounting bracket for each different headset, and then use magnets to stick it on. So you've got like a mounting shroud, and then it magnets on underneath.
Because it's like covering all the headsets, right? Like, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. They're bringing one out for Oculus Go, Oculus Rift, Gear VR, Vive, and PSVR. So pretty much covering all the bases there.
Just like, because I mean, smell is one of the like most complex things to like simulate. It's much more complex than, for example, vision. Yeah. How many smells do they have in there? Do you know that?
So yeah, they've got 9 interchangeable aroma capsules that can be used in the device for an array of scents. So you've got like coffee, gunpowder, lavender, all these sort of different smells. But apparently there is a range of 255 that you can actually purchase from their website and use in this device.
Oh shoot! Instead of gunpowder, I put the coffee in, so every time I shoot my gun, I smell Java.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like, when they said that there were so many, it didn't really make much sense to me, because how can you control that as a developer? I have no idea.
Imagine like before you play games, like, oh, I have these 250, so I can choose coffee or gunpowder. Yeah. Which one should I get for this particular experience?
But like my days. And then they listed Skyrim support.
Yeah, exactly, and that you're totally right. This already works with Beat Saber, Skyrim.
Beat Saber? What are you smelling in Beat Saber?
What do you smell there?
Coffee sabers.
Coffee, yeah.
Who knows? Guns and Stories, Death Horizon, and more. They're all
Guns
sort of already
and Stories?
supported. Yeah.
That's random.
That's
Very
random. That's
strange.
very random. But
Well,
wait. Before we go deeper down this rabbit hole, like Zim, what smell would you add to Skyrim? Because you can only pick one, you know, so you need to pick
No,
something.
you can have 9.
Oh, I've
Oh,
got
9 within like the device.
Yeah.
Okay, like the major one that you're gonna use the most in
Easy.
Skyrim.
Easy. Corpses.
Okay.
Burning corpses.
That's the thing. You could
this
do
is the thing.
burn. You could do smell of like salty air. You could because
Yeah.
you could do environmentally ones. The smell of a bear. Anyone ever smelled a bear? I have.
But
I've smelled a bear.
it doesn't make any sense to do it that way because, I mean, there's like, I think our noses can like discern maybe 1 trillion scents or something. Like it's an insanely high number that you can discern. And then not only that, you have like so many scent molecules in your nose, and as scent receptors in your nose, and the amount of scent molecules you have is even larger. And if you combine those, you get enormous amounts of variety, and you need to overlap them as well. A rose alone is already maybe 30 different scents that are combined. They smell like a rose, but you take one component out and it will smell differently. So
I love the fact that the scientist in the room is just like, this doesn't make any sense. It's like, we all know it doesn't make any sense, Rowdy. You don't need to be a scientist to tell us that.
There are Japanese cinemas, right? That have this. They have a kind of a 4D experience where you've got aromas that are injected. I think it's like 30 or 50 or something like that. They have these modules that sit under the seat in front of you, and the whole place smells like a bed of roses or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But
So,
again, the thing that I have to ask is if they're using a kind of a vaporizer type aroma. For those of us with facial hair, I'm telling you, net it gets stuck in there, and then you're smelling it later, and it's weird. It's weird.
I can already imagine like next Christmas, like, you know, we go to a family party after like having played with those kind of things for like, you know, an hour. We smell like corpses from Resident Evil, and you go and kiss your grandma, like, hi.
Corpses and coffee.
This is why I've been shaving for like the last 2 years to
on
actually prepare myself for this thing. But you know what I want to see is, can I make my own smells?
Oh, God.
But you can do that anyway, Nathan.
Like craft your own stuff, you know? It's like, like my favorite drinks and things like that. It's like, I put that in there, and candy, and you
Well,
know?
this is the funny thing, because I was thinking, like, what smells would the guys like? You know, what could I incorporate for each one of these guys? So I was like thinking, like Zim, you know, maybe like burning rubber or something. You know, like he likes the smell of the racetrack.
Nice.
You know, Rowdy,
Nice
I was
choice.
thinking, you know, maybe like Belgian waffles. You know, the fresh Belgian waffles. Maybe he would like that.
Every time you're around me, you smell Belgian waffles.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
dear.
then Nathan, I was thinking, you know, what does he love so much that he would just love to smell all the time? And I just want to, you know, put it out there for the developers now to really implement a yoppie sauce scent just for Nathan.
I thought you were like with Rowdy. I thought you would say like, yeah, a dusty old prison, you know, with a little sticky poo in the corner because there's no toilet because he sold it in the game. Tobacco. Yeah. But no, yeah,
sold
that's
your
pretty accurate,
toilet.
I would say.
I am very curious how they're gonna do this. Maybe they're gonna release like with every game, like, you know, a set of scent modules. Like you say, for Skyrim, these 9 smells are the best to use or whatever. I don't.
But does it then trigger in game, like it just detects what's going on?
Yeah, so basically it connects to your device using Bluetooth. It weighs about 7 ounces, just so you know. It's got around 4-hour battery life, so you have to charge it up and then slot it on using the magnets before you play a game. And basically what they're saying is they've created an editor tool. So if you're a game developer or, you know, you've created a 360 VR movie, for example, you can use the editor to implement the different smells for the experience that you're creating. But yeah, it's kind of weird because this company, FeelReal, they're planning to launch this on Kickstarter soon. But it's not their first attempt, actually, at selling this concept on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Oh.
They actually tried this way back in May 2015, and they tried to implement it in an all-in-one system. So not only do you have this kind of smell module, but also they tried to make their own version of like a Gear VR that used a smartphone to power it. And it was all encompassed in this huge helmet that just looked ridiculous. And they were trying to hit a goal back then of $39,000 US. but they only hit $19,000 US back then.
But that is so lowballing it for manufacturing. 39 grand. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
I have to say I do applaud them for like trying new things because I think eventually we're gonna get there, but I still think scent is something so complex and so subtle as well, because it's often that you only when you start like paying attention to it that you'll actually notice it, unless it's like a very very peculiar smell and often a not so nice smell. And I'm a little bit scared it's going to go into that direction. It's just like, everything stinks, or like everything smells like roses, or everything only like, the very strong smells, while scent is something so subtle and so difficult to do that I'm a little bit scared that they're going to go that way.
But I also want this. Like I'm such a guy who, like, whatever it is, give me the thing that's going to immerse me more. I mean, Mike was laughing when the Xanaband was this promoted thing, and it was a pain bracelet that went around your neck or whatever you call that, and it would cause you pain and pleasure, or whatever. However it does pleasure, I don't know. But you'd get that sensation, and I was like, I'll take one. I'll play that. But this is definitely a technology that I want to see it work, and I suppose I ask and answer the same question of, like, why doesn't this exist for our current games? Non-VR, right? Why has that product not matured in that market? And does that mean that it will be prevented from maturing in the VR market? I don't think the answer is necessarily a yes.
I think maybe people in the VR market are more susceptible to trying out these things and more adventurous, whereas traditional gamers are just like, even with traditional VR headsets, they're like, this looks weird, I don't want to try it.
I don't understand why, design-wise, why did they go like so vertical with this thing? Why didn't they just go more like around it and try to, because it's so...
mustache.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you're the expert here, so...
But I just want to add also that it's not just smells that this thing does. It also has an ionizing water mist system to squirt mist in your face. Wind. It's got like fans to have wind.
That's why it's so big.
You can feel the wind in your beard when you're like maybe swinging through the trees in Windlands or something.
Okay, that's cool.
Micro heaters for heat, and also motors for haptic feedback vibrations as well.
I love this thing.
I honestly love this thing as well. I think it's gonna
be... these extra features are even better than the smell stuff.
But the only issue is noise. I'm wondering. So, like, if you're using an Oculus Go without headphones on, you're gonna be really susceptible to tiny fan noise. Sure. You know what I mean? Like, if that thing ramps up. How's it powered? It's charged, I assume.
Yeah, it's got an internal battery. It lasts 4 hours.
So not only can the screen here blow up, now this one can as well. It's totally good. Head just decapitated.
So let's know in the chat what you guys think. I'd love to know. But yeah, this is coming to Kickstarter soon, so we don't know when. But
so again, you mean like this is the second time they try to go on Rider?
If it works, I'm all for it. If it doesn't, nah.
I want to try it out. Like you guys said, I'm super intrigued. I'd love them to send me one so I can check it out and cover it on the channel. I'd love to just play around with it. But
we'll see what happens. I have to say to you, Mike, because now that you've got the flavor of tactile equipment and why I look ridiculous sitting here like I'm about to blow up a bomb, anyone who owns a sub pack, if you play Contractors, this works really well for bullet impact on your chest. So if you take it from your back to your front, it's a really great simulator of like getting shot, and it'll ping you in different places or whatever. It's pretty nifty. So give it a go if you've got one. So just a little bit of a tip, because again, for immersion, everything counts.
Absolutely, absolutely. A small bit of haptic feedback makes a big difference in VR. I'm definitely behind that for sure. So let's move on to the Varjo bionic display headset. I'm pretty sure we talked about this a while ago, but I wanted to talk about it again because it's coming up to release next year. It's actually pronounced Varjo, even though it's spelled Varjo, and apparently it means shadow in Finnish, because this is a Helsinki-based company. They founded back in 2016, and on their website they state that the resolution of VR devices on the market today is just 100th of what the average human eye can see. And they say that people with vision that poor aren't even allowed to drive a car in the real world. So why are we basically putting up with it for our VR headsets? But, it's a nice marketing statement. I think we're fine for now, but I'm very interested to see what they come to the market with. And basically, they've got what they're calling a bionic display, which mimics the complex characteristics of the human eye to let you see things in the virtual world just as clearly as you would see them in the real world. So when you look around the real world with your eyes, they focus on a small part of the big picture, like we've discussed before with foveated rendering. And that's where the highest and most intense resolution is. And you can see what's happening in the periphery, but your focus is happening on what's right in front of your eyes at that time. And this is exactly how this headset works, by using eye tracking. In real time, it will track where your eyes are looking, and will deliver a flawless and completely accurate image that far surpasses anything on the market today. And apparently they state is 40 times the clarity of the Vive Pro, which is super interesting. And they don't do this by just having a super crazy resolution display. They actually do it in a really clever way. And what they do is they use 2 displays per eye. So one display sitting on top of another one. So you've got a context display, which is the one in the background, which is a 1440 by 1600 at 90 hertz. And then right in the center of that display is a tiny, tiny, tiny little bitty 1920 by 1080 display at 90 hertz. So you've got, you're probably thinking like, 1920 by 1080, that's not a great resolution. But when you scale it down to something that's teeny tiny like this, and just right in the center of another display, it actually makes things incredibly sharp.
So it's not foveated rendering, so it doesn't track the eye then?
It is using eye tracking and using software-based foveated rendering, but does have a physical, basically 2 displays. So one is a context display, and one in the very center of your vision, where most of the text will be and stuff like that, is a high.
Because that is fixed foveated rendering, basically.
Essentially fixed foveated rendering, but uses software. Uses software for the rest of the display as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So what you do get when you use this technology, where you basically put a display on a display, is you get a slight overlap of the two, where it's kind of not quite seamless. Like you get a little bit of a join. But apparently the trade-off is that you get super crystal clear text and images right in the center of the display. So things become super clear, which is really interesting.
I'm a little bit... Yeah, I want to try it out now that you say it, because I immediately think because you don't often look like just straight dead ahead the entire time. So you're going to notice the difference from looking like this or looking like this. And I don't know if that's going to be a nice thing, even though the resolution is higher, but you're going to be switching between 2 resolutions pretty much the entire time.
So basically they use the eye tracking and the dynamic foveated rendering for the big display in the background. And then the small one is, like you say, in a sweet spot. So although, like you say, you will get the most clarity in the sweet spot, when your eyes drift into the larger display area, it does get handled by the foveated rendering. So it will still be clearer. It is actually, a lot of this information comes from Ben from Road to VR, and he did a really nice article on it recently. And Ben is a very skeptical person of sort of new technologies, very critical as well. And he was blown away by this. So I really sort of hold it in terms of his credibility, in that it's really decent stuff. And the great thing about this is, although they're pushing this technology and this amazing resolution that they're saying is almost retina quality, you only need a GTX 1080 to run this headset. And you only need an i7 6700 to run it as well. It does use 2 display ports, because you're obviously running 2 displays per eye. So you're running 4 displays in total.
That's new.
But super interesting, and a nice way of tackling this problem, rather than just going super big resolution. They're thinking smarter and outside the box.
Where is it being manufactured out of? Do you know? What country?
So they're based in Helsinki, and I'm not sure if they're manufacturing it there as well, or maybe getting it manufactured in Asia. But essentially, the headset is going to work with Steam VR, so tracking and controller systems like the Lighthouses and Vive ones will work out the box. Steam VR games won't work out the box, though. Despite being compatible with Unity and Unreal engines, all current Steam VR games have to be recompiled for it to work with the headset, because essentially you're rendering the game to 2 displays rather than a single one. So there's some complexities there. But again, this isn't for us as gamers. This is really for enterprise. They've partnered with Airbus, Audi, BMW, Volkswagen, and they're sort of really pushing it for enterprise customers because they want the best sort of possible clarity to show their customers and clients their upcoming products for prototyping and that kind of thing. And that's where this headset will really shine, I think.
Wasn't, by the way, the DK1 or the DK2 also 2 screens instead of just one?
DK1.
Oh, so I'm not talking about 2 separate displays side by side. I'm talking about 4 separate displays. So one display on top of another, and then another display on top of another. So 4 displays in total, essentially. Yeah. Crazy.
So just moving back to the past a little bit, FeelReal is actually watching the podcast right now, and they also told me, because I was asking about like custom smells. Well, you can do that apparently.
Wow.
So I can make my own smells. Yay.
So now when people can play your character in game in like Slightly Heroes, for example, they can actually smell what you know. I think it would just be like a mix of pepper nuts and yoppie sauce. If they can come up with that, they've got it. They've got it nailed there.
But they said that your overall review of, or your your story about this thing so far was on point. So
good to hear. Like I said, send us one and we'll check it out, and we'll have some fun with it, I'm sure.
Imagine like having to do all those 255 smells for a review, and then just go over all of them.
Now we're doing mustard gas.
We go from happy smells to rotten smells.
But maybe a coffee one to wake me up in the morning, when I get to my little man cave. That might work.
Mike is not going to use it on his headsets. He's just going to use it as a separate thing. Like he's putting it in his bed, so he wakes up with the coffee stuff.
Exactly.
Oh my Lord.
Wow.
Just going back to the Varjo, they've also got a mixed reality add-on planned in the future, which basically adds 2 pass-through cameras, so you can look into the real world and switch between the real world and the virtual worlds, without really noticing. It's going to be launching in 2019, obviously for partners and developers. It's going to be around $5,000 to $10,000 US.
Oh, is that all?
Using this kind of technology.
Oh, okay.
But like we've mentioned, other big enterprise headsets and technologies like XTAL and StarVR and Neurable, they all seem to be picked up by these big partners like Airbus, 20th Century Fox, Audi, BMW, and it's because they really want to push the technology forward. So I think it's great that these things exist, and it's just a sign that these things will eventually roll down to us.
I told you before, it's the war of the headsets next year. Everyone is gonna battle with their own HMDs.
Yeah, but it's super interesting. We're almost talking about a new headset every episode now.
Yes.
It's kind of interesting.
Insane.
Yeah.
But still, I haven't seen a headset that, like, I'm way more interested in like how like they work around like what, for example, NVIDIA was doing with their RTX stuff. I find that way more interesting and pushing the boundary more than just like increasing the resolution higher and higher and higher. I would like them to see like experimenting with like maybe like like curved lenses or like very focal lenses, lens distances, those kind of things. I would like to see in like newer generation headsets, much more than just like increasing the resolution. Since I really don't think that the resolution at this point is a setback or a letdown.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But it's interesting to see developers tackle the problem by using a solution like this, like overlaying a display with another display that's much smaller at a higher resolution. That's super interesting. Yeah. So let's round up the show then with our best of 2018. Of course, this is the last show of 2018 before we dive into 2019. So let's pass it round and discuss some of our highlights of the year. And I guess let's start off with some hardware and headsets. So I don't know if you maybe want to kick it off, Zim, with maybe your impressions of what your best headset of the year was, or something you want to highlight in terms of hardware that you enjoyed this year.
Headset of the year. I mean, I continue to use my Rift almost on a day-to-day basis, but headset of the year, aside from the fact that it burns in the sun, has to be the Oculus Go. I have, before this year, I think I've said this before, kind of like oil and water, I've not been watching movies in VR. And it's actually a really nice combination, but because I work sitting at a desk, sitting upright, and I play sitting at a desk, sitting upright. I don't want to be chilling out, sitting at a desk, sitting upright. Like I want to go lay down in bed or on a couch or something. And to be honest, the Go has just that right battery life for a full-length feature film. And as I said it earlier in this podcast and probably on last week's, that's the one for me. So out of everything that I've done this year, even trying the Quest and stuff, the thing that I have my hands on that I've used this year the most and is the winner for me, it has to be the Go. And the most surprising thing about the Go is you really don't need the 64 gig model. I mean, you have to fill that thing to make use of the 64. I think 32, if you can get it for $189 or whatever the US price is, just do it. It's such an easy to use headset. You'll find a use for it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a really good point. And yeah, you can't mention the Quest because it's not released in 2018, so that doesn't count for the other guys if they were going to use it. But yeah, let's see what Nathy's was then.
The headset of the year, you mean?
Or just hardware in general that you were really impressed with this year that you want to highlight maybe.
I thought like the B haptic suit I have is pretty cool, you know.
Yeah, I can vouch for that as well, for sure.
As a haptic suit, I do have to say I really enjoyed using the Vive trackers as like an upgrade in a way.
Yeah, that was fun.
To have that, you know, to kind of extend. It's a shame I still don't have the treadmill I was waiting for. So
the Cat
that's
VR.
Something so that's I have to postpone that for next year. And headset, yeah, I mean I agree. It's the Oculus Go, but looking at what came out, there isn't that much that came out in terms of headsets. But yeah, the Oculus Go was super awesome. You know, for me it was more like something so kind of like underpowered can be so nice and so. You know,
that screen is just, I still want that screen on every headset. I want the Go screen in my PSVR, my Vive, my Rift, like, and whenever I tell people about it who don't know about the Go, and they're like, oh, and how is it compared to PSVR? I'm like, no, it's the best of all of them. It's like the best optics for me.
For sure. What about you then, Rowdy?
If you would have asked me this a year ago, I probably would have said that for me, the ultimate headset was still the Vive. But actually, I think this year it kind of changed more for me to the Oculus Rift. I still think that is actually my favorite, even though maybe I play with it a little bit less than I do with the Vive, but it has more to do with like the ease of recording than it does with the actual headset. But in the recent months, there have been so many improvements to like how the Oculus Rift just works, especially when you look at like what they did with Home, Oculus Home, the integration with the games there, just the polish of it, the ease of it, the Oculus Deck, all of that kind of stuff that made it for me, in a way, a better device. In 2018 than it was in 2017, even though it's the same device. And I feel that Vive is starting to lack a little bit in that field on like the software-matic kind of stuff. There are certain things that I've seen Oculus make larger strides than, for example, Vive with their version. So for me, I would have to say Oculus Rift.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got a bit of a roundup of kind of like a lot of the stuff that I tried this year, and like you guys, the Rift is still my daily driver. That's the one I sort of always go back to. However, the one that really shone for me this year was PSVR and kind of took me by surprise. I'd kind of dismissed it previously. And then obviously Nathy kindly gifted me one, and then I went out and bought a Pro PS4, and I've been really impressed with it ever since. We'll be talking more about the games that I've enjoyed on the PSVR a little bit later, but the headset is solid, and for people that dismiss it, you really shouldn't. It really does go toe-to-toe with the PCVR headsets, and has the amazing exclusive titles to boot as well. So we'll be talking more about those again in a minute, but alongside that, I was really impressed with the Samsung Odyssey Plus. I think, the demo that I got from Voodoo DE, Thomas, when I went and visited Nathy, really changed my opinion on the Windows mixed reality platform. And for me, kind of sold me back onto the idea of potentially using it again. So the Odyssey Plus is a standout headset for sure. I get a bit like what you guys said, the Oculus Go, brilliant. Super easy to use, really accessible. It's the one I show everyone. I can take it everywhere with me. The Pimax obviously showed us a super wide field of view, which is interesting. Definitely looking forward to having more hands-on time with that. And I just want to sort of push out there the Vive Pro as well with this wireless solution. You know, with pushing that resolution and having this kind of wireless technology with it as well from Intel, and it works flawlessly. It was incredible. So yeah, they're the kind of roundup of the hardware that I played with this year, and kind of super impressed with them all in their own little merits. But yeah, like you guys have said, the Oculus Rift is still my daily driver for now. So let's maybe go on to mobile games, because you know we've all been using the Go a fair amount. So what was your standout mobile game of the year? Go on then, Rowdy.
Virtual reality.
Yeah. What about you, Zim?
Dispatch. Man, Dispatch was, it actually dropped the final episodes in either Jan or Feb of the year, so it's kind of an early bird. But the one that was the most artful for me, absolutely. If you haven't seen Dispatch, it is a heart-wrencher.
It's great. Yeah, totally agree. What about you, Nathan?
I would say Anne Frank House VR on Go.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Interesting choice for sure. So I was actually going to choose virtual reality as well. I think that is a standout title, and it's got some great voice acting in it. It's very funny. It's a clever game.
General gameplay and everything is good in that game. Like it feels like a AAA title.
It's memorable as well. Like there are moments in that the fucking guy with the cheese, or the butter, or whatever it was you were rubbing on him.
You mean indulging butter?
Oh gosh, the voices, like some of the stuff you have as you do in that game.
As Rowdy said, like it feels like a PC VR game.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like a full fat PC VR game on a mobile headset. Interaction, everything, environments, voice acting, style, gameplay, everything was just top notch. Yeah, story. Definitely worth checking it out if you've got a mobile headset for sure. Yeah, okay, so nice one. There's some interesting choices there for sure. And Frank, I didn't expect that one, but yeah, very interesting choice, Nathan. Let's talk about best PSVR game then. I'm sure we probably share a few similarities there as well, but let's kick it over to Nathan first with this one.
Astrobot.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Rowdy?
Moss. Definitely Moss.
And Zim?
I'm flipping between two. I will land it on Firewall. Firewall was amazing. It showed me that PSVR, as you said, toe-to-toe, could even best PCVR in the FPS scene. Yeah,
for sure. And I still think, although I think Contractors is a great game, I have to say I enjoyed Firewall more with the PS Aim controller, because you've got that added bit of immersion there using a physical item.
And the teamwork is really solid in that. Like you know, you work as a team inherently. Yeah.
100% agreed.
What was yours?
But I have to side with Nathan on this one. And Astrobot was my favorite, and I do agree with Rowdy that Moss was a standout platformer, and I think if Astrobot only was just that fraction better, I think, in my opinion.
The reason why I'm not picking Astrobot is because I'm not a platformer kind of guy. I don't really enjoy platformers, but the reason why I'm choosing Moss is because of the storyline that they put behind there.
100%.
I couldn't care less about like the entire platforming kind of thing. It was fun to play it, but I played it because I wanted to know what happened with the story. And that was, for me, one of the first times in virtual reality, save for Lone Echo, that I really, really was like enticed by like, what is going to happen? What do I need to do next? The environments were absolutely gorgeous. They paid so much detail to like small things as the sound effects, the wind, the visuals, everything that was going around that I'd have to pick that one.
No, I agree on that. I think like Astrobot was more like innovating in a way, where it was showing you new stuff that you have never experienced in VR before. It's the first game that plays with the controller in such a unique, way.
The game design reminded me very strongly in Astrobot of Static, S-T-A-T-I-K. If you haven't played that game, the way it involves your hands and changes the way that you're interacting the game in a way that you don't expect it.
Yeah, agreed.
This is just a title that keeps surprising you. It's not like, I've seen everything in the first hour. I know how the gameplay is gonna be, but every time it's like, oh wait, there's something new getting added to my gameplay that I also need to,
Yeah, I would say that if you don't own a PSVR and you're looking for a platformer, Moss is definitely the one to go for. But obviously, if you own a PSVR, Astrobot clinches it for me. But yeah, Firewall was a very close one as well because I thought that was a standout game as well.
The one in a close second, and this might surprise you, but I have to mention Wipeout. It was such an ode to classic Wipeout, super fast racers, was ultra comfortable, gave a whole bunch of different comfort options. It just was a really stellar early release, and I think a lot of PSVR owners will remember it from earlier in the year. So for anyone just joining us from Christmas as a PSVR owner, just remember, because it doesn't have that much resounding echoing going off the walls like some of the other games out there, like Moss and Astrobot. Remember that Wipeout, there's a 3-in-1 game out there, and it's bloody awesome.
What are people in the chat saying is their favorite sort of PSVR and mobile games?
Aligning with what we're saying, although Wipeout was also mentioned, Astrobot has been mentioned. Face Your Fears is from mobile.
That's also a good choice.
Title.
Good choice, yeah, agreed.
I see things written about Skyrim.
That was released last year, though.
That already.
Yeah.
Unless also, I see people saying Rift with the PSVR being a close second. If only the PSVR had better tracking, which is a
agreed. Point. Yeah, agreed.
I do feel like Moss and Astrobot have really, showed everyone that third-person platforming is here to stay. Because I feel like back in the days when I was playing a lot of third person, I always had to protect it. Like even with Hellblade, it's third person, but that doesn't work in VR. And it's not nice and blah blah blah. And now finally this year it's like it's really awesome. Smart
because it's not third person. It's first person.
Yes, it kind of is. Yeah.
So that's how they managed to convince people that it worked by actually not using third person, but by using first person and making it look like third person.
Yeah. But like you say though, Nick, like Hellblade, even though it is a third person game, it is a standout game in VR for sure.
I'd say with Lucky Steel and Edge of Nowhere, those are all like top-notch third-person VR.
Are you taking us over to PCVR, Mike? Because I'm getting okay. Because I'm like you're starting to talk Hellblade, and that was already itching on my list.
Okay. Let's go in. Let's go to PCVR game.
I'm wondering how many categories we have here. So
we've got two more. So PCVR is the next one. So go for it, Zim. I know you're itching. So tell us more, please.
Oh no, I was still thinking. Go to the other guys first. I gotta just have a think here.
Go on, Nathan. PCVR game of 2018.
I don't even know. I didn't think about this one. I don't know. I need to think more. Like go to Rowdy.
Okay, go on, Rowdy.
I think, and that might come as a surprise because I haven't actually played that much of it, but it's one of the ones that I enjoyed so much. It was the Rec Royale mode in Rec Room.
Yeah,
nice.
Good choice. Good choice.
I really enjoyed
Rec Room has continued to show that they're an amazing free game. How it's still free, I still have no idea. But still amazing that they update that so regularly, and so it's got such a thriving
game every year. So
it is.
I'm picking that one.
Yeah, no, it's a really great choice. What about you guys? Have you thought up a choice yet?
Got it.
Go on then, Zim.
Hit us with it. Same thing. I voted for my Steam Game of the Year as Pixel Ripped. I really liked how they gave an ode to old games, how things work well in VR, how the sprites work, how they move you from... I mean, it's kind of a crunchy game. It's very indie, and it's not the most polished game in the world. But for what it tries to do and what it achieves, Pixel Ripped 1989. Fantastic.
Awesome, man. That's a really good choice. And me and Nathan spoke to Anna recently, actually, and she's hinted at the fact that more Pixel Ripped will be coming. So if you enjoyed that, you'll be happy to hear that there's going to be more in different eras. So look forward to that. But go on then, Nathan. I'm intrigued to know yours.
Let me give you my top 3 because I have my list here of all the games. But for me, on number 1 is Red Matter.
Wow.
Best game of this year on PC, I would say. Very surprising, but again, in a way, it's innovating. It's showing new stuff. It shows how to nail VR the right way. Physics-wise, super satisfying. The first one that uses, the controllers, but then wraps your hands around it and doubles the immersion because of that. And then for me, on the second place, would be Pixel Ripped as well. For me, that was like a crazy throwback to when I started, exploring VR. So it was even like almost like an emotional Adventure 2, I would say. And then on number 3, I would also have to agree with Rowdy on Rec Room with their Rec Royale. Amazing, super fun. Yeah,
It is the
I
year
haven't
of
heard
Battle
Beat Saber
Royale.
yet.
Hmm?
I haven't heard Beat Saber yet.
Well,
that was mine. That was mine.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that was yours?
Yeah,
Okay.
I still think Beat Saber is one of those games that I probably play the most across all platforms. I play it on PSVR, I play it on the Rift, and it's one that has a special place in my heart because it's the first game that my wife has ever been really interested to play with me in terms of VR game.
Yeah.
So the fact that she keeps coming back and saying let's play more of it is great that I get to share it with her. So that's why it really sort of.
It's a first in a genre as well.
First
I don't
in
think
a
that we
genre.
had something that
Very-
was that popular.
Very innovative, set a trend, and we'll probably see many clones coming in 2019.
We have already seen a few.
We've seen it, but there'll be more.
The popstick one, right?
Exactly, but the great thing about Beat Saber is, they're continuing to innovate. We've seen it with the KDA Popstars collaboration. They're bringing these really sort of huge musical tracks into the game, which is great. And we saw it on PSVR, and I'm hoping that this game comes out on the Quest as well. I'm sure it will.
And the nicest thing about Beat Saber is that it's a wholesome experience. And I think that's why first off, the mechanism works. It feels great. People can just jump into it and get it. My 4-year-old begs me to play it because she loves it. But it's so easy to get that simple thing. But they nailed it. They polished it so well. And the new song picks have been so spot on, like what you were saying with the KDA. I'm not a League of Legends fan. I was going in there going, no way am I gonna like whatever this K-pop song is, but love it. And it's such a ubiquitous celebration of VR, just in a package, and it's so easy to like it. I went into Beat Saber because it was so popular, not wanting to like it, and ended up
Industry wise, I think it won because it was the system seller.
Definitely.
It really got some more people into VR buying a headset. So they want to.
Yeah, exactly. And people that don't even necessarily know VR know Beat Saber, and they sort of sync it with being in VR. So I think that's the great thing about it. It got the word out for people, and I think it's the biggest thing we've seen so far in terms of a VR killer app. So Beat Saber wins the award.
What's your final category, Mike? I'm curious here now.
So the final category is best VR event that you attended this year. Okay. So Nathy went.
Before we do the event one, I was just going to say, because actually Nathy just touched on something, because I was going to mention Beat Saber as the overall, because I think if I was to go across all the different platforms, because you can go platform specific and say, on this platform, what's the winner of the year, But I'm kind of into Nathy's camp, and although I was scratching around, really didn't want to give it to Beat Saber. But again, it's the same thing. It's like, there's no other game that had me up at 4 a.m., in my underwear, standing there, beating away. Well, anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a
I totally agree. So in terms of events, because I know that Nathy went to a lot of events last year, what would you say was your sort of highlight for VR event last year?
Oh man, these categories, man. For me, this is hard because on one side, for me it was always a dream to go to E3. Okay, this is just super epic, and you guys weren't there, and let's say E3 for me was on number 1, but that was more there were so many developers there, the whole industry was there, all the VR developers I could dream of, and and it was LA, and I've never been to America before. It's my first time in America, next level, super epic. But why Oculus Connect, because Oculus Connect was great too, is on the second place, is just because I think it was really fun, but it's Oculus only. Well, E3 is everyone, it's the entire industry, but Oculus Connect was super duper awesome because we were all there and we could just share the excitement of VR together. So from the the friendship perspective, meeting all these people that I hadn't seen in years was so nice. But E3, industry wise, was just everything together. So yeah, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Go on then, Zim. What about yours?
I think, yeah, despite loving the UK convention circuit to an extent that I want to, develop and publish a game in the UK convention circuit at some stage and working on that, still Oculus Connect 5 was really awesome. That's got to be my pick because, again, getting to meet people like Kaz and Cherry and stuff like that in the flesh and just, and also the Quest release and being able to try, tetherless running around room scale, and it just felt like a big party. Oculus Connect 4 felt like a big party, but this one kind of brought another notch, and I was totally expecting it to go backwards, but it was great. So for me, Oculus Connect 5, and hey, 5 at the end of my name might bias me a little bit.
What about you, Rowdy?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. Like, it was definitely OC5 for me. I mean, just meeting everyone out there, like you could call it a party indeed, but it was like one big hugging event. I've never hugged so many people in my life at like such a short time. It was amazing. Like, going to that greasy little restaurant in the back of our hotel there with everyone, and like getting American fries and milkshakes. That was so awesome. Cool. Not my credit card not working, so Natie's brother had to pay for me. Brilliant experience. Scooting around with Mike. Sneaking into the Onward event with Lonely Viper, stealing free pizzas. Yeah, I just had a general good time, regardless of like all the amazing hardware that I got to try there. So it was so much fun.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. Gamescom for me was a great event as well. There was so much VR stuff there, really innovative stuff as well, like stuff that I'd never tried before, like flying machines and treadmills and like shoes and loads of like crazy VR stuff. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, being at OC5 together with you guys really sort of topped it for me. Doing the podcast live on the show floor, that was awesome. That was like a standout experience. Meeting other content creators as well, obviously you guys, but Cass and Cherry, Don, aka VR Gamer Dude, Caleb, aka Reality Check VR, Frank, aka PSVR Frank, Eric Hartley, Thomas, aka Voodoo DE, Tyrael Wood, and the Lonely Viper, just to name a few. It was awesome to meet them all in real life because we had known each other through being on the internet together, so it was kind of like we're already a big family anyway. So it was super nice.
I do want to add one more, I would say. I mean, Gamescom was really nice too, but I like that was at the beginning of like this year. There was the Apex Construct event from Fast Travel.
Yes.
That was also because that was the first time that a few of us at least met, and so that was also special. So yeah, meeting people is the best of all, outside of the whole VR thing.
For sure. But other than that, like, we did a lot this year in terms of the show. This podcast has been running for over a year now. Hey. We rebranded this year and branched off on our own YouTube channel, which is doing super well. And we love doing this live and having you guys and girls tune in every week and then listen to it on your commutes and give us feedback about how you're enjoying the show. I love that. And also, like, for me personally, quitting my full-time job and doing this full-time was a big step as well. So 2018 has been a crazy year, and I'm super excited for 2019, and I'm sure we're going to cover this more in next week's episode, obviously being the new sort of episode of 2019 about what we're excited about for 2019, because there's so much to be excited about, I think, and I think it's really going to be a great year for VR and us and events and doing more of this stuff together. I think it's going to be great.
No, I agree.
I can't wait.
So
can't wait.
So there we have it.
So happy
Should I maybe, last but not least, spit out the list of all the games that I thought were pretty interesting this year that came out?
You're going to go through the whole 100 games?
I did it last.
No,
I did it last.
Don't do
year
it again. Don't do the whole list again.
I did it last year as well, but this time I'm just gonna make it real, like quicker than the previous time. I'm gonna skip a few because not everything was like super,
only 95.
Yeah, let's is 5 less fine for you, Zim?
Get comfortable, everyone.
Okay, there we go. Are you ready for like
I'm gonna go get something to eat. I'll be right back.
Okay, so are you ready for like a time travel here? Okay, so Borderlands 2 VR yeah, Beat Saber, Contractors. We had Marvel Powers United VR, Slightly Heroes, Astrobot, Covert, Fitted, Wardust, Crow, The Legend, Tin Hearts, The Racine, Tetris Effect, Talos Principle, Beatron 2000, Creed, Baby Hands, The Great Sea, Catan, Space Pirate Trainer on PSVR, Echo Combat, Bait, Rush, Endspace, Face Your Fears, Once, Sorrento VR came out again. I don't know how they did that. Berlin Blitz from, what is it? Mike, do you know the company?
VR Education. VR
exactly.
Immersive Education.
Yeah, and then Titanic VR. Windlands 2, Compound, Torn, Hellblade, Electronauts, Pixel Ripped, Carly and the Reaperman, Zero Caliber, Space Explorers, The American Dream, Transpose, Rec Room, VR Chat. Those are just ones that are always around. Brass Tactics, Box VR, In Death, Witching Tower, Haunted Graveyard, Somnium Space, Fox Machine, Dungeon Brewmaster, The Bond, Apollo 11 HD, Nefertari, Explorer Tomb in Egypt, Is Anna Okay by the BBC, Transference by Ubisoft, Moss, Ranch, La Camilla, Voidhead, Wreck-It Ralph, Persistence, VR Furballs, Skyfront, Paper Valley, Kin, Wipeout, Blind, Ace Combat 7. That one isn't out yet. I made a mistake on that one. Sorry. Primordian, Protocol, Apex Construct, Along Together, Red Matter, Budget Cut, Summer Funland, They Suspect Nothing, FeelReal, High Fidelity, PokerStars VR, Arcus Path, Cave Digger, Where Thoughts Go, Firebird the Unfinished, and then, last but not least, Age of Sail by Google Spotlight Stories. There you go.
Wait,
that was...
What was it? What was it? 17?
Yeah. So
that's
make sure...
that's 2018,
So
and that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot in there. The one that
Not bad at all.
the one that I picked out was Cave Digger. That was feckin' fun. I need to go back to that one. It's good.
So let us know in the chat if you've got any questions for us while I round up this week's show. We've gone on for a little bit longer, but it is a special episode after all, the last one of the year, so we thought we'd give you that extra bit of content. But it's a reminder that this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. Tune into the show live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, 12 midday in Central US. Check out the audio version on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Anchor. Leave us a review on iTunes because that would really help us out. And if you've got any questions, now's the time. Go.
Was it hard adjusting to the life of streamer after your world-famous role as the villain in Die Hard, Mike?
I love these troll questions.
It was Sim, actually.
It was Sim. What? Oh my God! Was it
Amazing.
hard adjusting to the life of streamer after your world-famous role? No, basically the same things apply. You know, you just leave broken glass all over the place, plant a bomb or two, and you know, boom, that's entertainment.
Done.
Done.
Amazing question.
Megan is also telling Matey to take a breather. You know, make sure you keep on breathing.
Make sure you tune into next week's show where Nathy will recount the 100 games, but backwards this time.
And Stefan says, next year, Valve, and a tad bit of Quest.
Yes, we're going to be talking way more about that in next week's show. Stuff that we're excited about, stuff that we're speculating about, including Valve, and maybe a PSVR 2 I'd love to see as well. But we'll talk about that more next week's show.
It sounds almost like VR is getting so good that we soon have to pick a side and stay with something.
We need to start doing the podcast twice a week.
Well,
Yeah.
I definitely want to say to all you guys, again, harking back to the time we were around that little white table together, all bundled up and huddled, doing our first ever, real life podcast. That was amazing. We definitely got to do that again sometime next year. And I just want to shout again to Tyrael, who I didn't even know really, other than by name, before doing that. And he did such fantastic camera work. Really impressed with the dude. I hope he does that stuff professionally because absolutely amazing at it. And a greatly mannered fella as well. But to all of you guys, happy fucking holidays, lads. This has been an awesome year.
It has. It's been an awesome year. Hanging out with you guys every Saturday has definitely been a highlight of it. It's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to more of this in 2019 for sure. So I think
that Crash Organism makes a very nice remark at the end of the show. Episode 69. What a way to end the year.
Exactly. So we'll end it there. Thank you all for joining us on this crazy adventure, whether you've joined us live in the chat or whether you've listened to it on your commute, or you've caught up with the show after it's sort of been streamed onto YouTube. We really appreciate all your support, and we'll continue to deliver this awesome show to you in the new year as well. So I look forward to seeing you all in the new year. Have a happy new year to all of our listeners, subscribers, and viewers. We appreciate every single one of you. And until next week, bye-bye for now, and have a great time in VR. So bye-bye.
Happy New Year!
Yay! Bye.
See ya.